What has been lurking in the woods for centuries? Is it possible for one of the most popular cryptids to be an interdimensional being? What entity is known as one of the most elusive creatures ever? Today, we test the believability of Bigfoot.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. Happy Tuesday. It's here.
I'm shocked.
There's like a list, like an undercover list of things that like it's almost like a joke we're not covering. Like Bermuda Triangle,
Yeah.
Roswell, Bigfoot.
This is one of them. What got into you?
I wanted to do it. No, actually, you know what inspired it? I went to Five Below and I bought a Bigfoot book.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm gonna read these stories.
Yeah.
I didn't open the book. I have not opened the book, but I still did the damn thing. I'm super excited. But let me be very upfront, very, very upfront. Consider this Bigfoot Volume 1.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to cover all the intricacies. There are literally, like when you're talking about Michigan Dogman, there are podcasts, very good, well-researched podcasts that are all about Bigfoot.
Yeah, this is Bigfoot 101.
That's exactly what I put. This is 101 class. This is like dipping your foot in. Like, do I want to do this? Do I want to major in this? Can I make money with this?
You're like, I've heard of Bigfoot before, but can I learn more?
My parents said I could do anything, so I was thinking Bigfoot cryptozoologist.
Probably more lucrative than theater, honestly.
So this is a 101, like a background. It's not going to be, there's a lot here. I think you walk away with knowing more about Bigfoot than you did, unless, you're nerd, but
well,
but I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. And sources include Live Science, or it's Live Science, Mirror, Cryptids.fandom, Cryptozoology, Cryptids, How Stuff Works, Phantoms and Monsters, Reddit, Huffington Post, Washington Military Department.
Wow. I like the science articles mixed in because it's like, this is why it's probably bullshit. I assume.
I cut everything that said hoax. No way. We're going all in. Already #believable. But I'm really excited. This is going to be kind of the overview, just so you can kind of prep for what's about to happen. Background in Bigfoot, like what he is, what's going on.
Yeah. Behaviors,
descriptions, historical sightings and beginnings, behaviors, what he could be, and then obviously, some encounters.
Yeah. Probably none from Reddit though, right?
Of course not. I did just announce it as a source, but no, of course. Did I?
I don't think
did I say Reddit? Did I not write it in here?
Maybe I'm tripping.
No, I did.
Okay.
I did. So without further ado, let's jump in.
This new angle makes me feel like I'm listening to a story from a parent. Just like, wow, really?
I'm going to turn the book and show you the pictures and break my neck. So what is Bigfoot? I feel like most people have a grasp of what or who Bigfoot is.
Yeah.
We'll still do a general breakdown here.
There's that pose. Everyone knows the pose.
The pose. We'll get to the pose. So Bigfoot, aka Sasquatch, is a very large, hairy humanoid, technically classified as a cryptid. He's popularly known for dwelling in the PNW.
Pacific Northwest.
But he's been using them big old feet to travel across the country.
Yeah.
In other areas, he has other names. We've covered some of them, like the Honey Island Swamp Monster, Boggy Creek Monster, the Ohio Grassman, Skunk Ape, which is one we haven't
We've not done that one. When I saw last podcast on Left, they did that for one of their live segments.
Yeah.
With the Skunk Ape.
I hope a lot of people respond on Spotify and they're like, I heard about this topic on this other podcast. Yeah. Which one did you get hit with that with? It was very recent.
I don't know. Man in a Girl?
No one heard about that. No one's heard about that. It was it was the other one you just did. Oh, the school, Rua.
Oh, or the Rua incident.
Yeah. Don't tell me that you've heard of Bigfoot. I know. But like I said, for this podcast, we're going to keep it a little generic.
Yeah.
RC Cola Sasquatch. Dr. Pibfoot.
Mr. Pib.
Mr. Pibfoot.
Mr. Pibfoot.
Mr. Pibfoot.
Oh, God, what's the generic? Lemon Lime.
I kind of like Mr. Pibfoot.
Mr. Pibfoot.
I think that kind of rings. Apparently, the name Sasquatch comes from the Salish Sasak, which means wild men.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. Brain nuggets.
There's the nugget right there.
Yeah.
I actually like the Mr. Pibfoot better than that fact, but that's okay. So what does Bigfoot look like? He's incredibly tall, 7 feet, which is Wemby. Shout out Wemby. Like 7 feet tall to 14 feet tall, weighing anywhere from like 450 to 500 pounds. See, you got to do is you got to stand on the scale, then you got to pick Bigfoot up, stand on the scale, and that's how you tell.
But he's screaming the whole time and scratching you.
Scratching, yeah. And he's probably picking you up, to be honest. He's completely covered in shaggy fur, known to have a face that's a mix between ape and human. And there's variations to his fur. Sometimes it's brown, lighter brown, reddish brown, or gray.
Some form of brown.
If they're
typically.
Older.
Yeah, when you get old, you get gray.
Just for Sasquatch. Is that nice mix?
I mean, interesting commercial.
He walks and runs bipedal.
Yeah.
And is known to be incredibly strong and a great climber. But, there's always a downside. He does give off a putrid scent. Not a fan of the shower, which is ironic because of the soap, Dr. Squatch. It's very ironic.
I wonder why is he? Why?
Not a sponsor. He's out in the woods, man. If I was out in the woods for a week, I would smell like shit.
I guess that's true.
Imagine your whole life. Like you sweat and you just have to wait for it to rain.
And you're covered.
Although he is in like the Pacific Northwest. It's just raining.
All the time. What if it's like mildewy? Yeah, like musty.
Oh, so if he uses Dr. Squatch, but then it doesn't rain. Yeah. And then you got the soap in you. Ugh. Ugh. The scent is actually sometimes a giveaway that one might be nearby. One of the most popular ways that folks document a Bigfoot encounter, besides shaky-ass 1996 home video footage, is by discovering Bigfoot prints. There's been some alleged Sasquatch footprints that have measured up to 24 inches long.
Wow.
Which is 2 feet. Two feet, one Bigfoot.
Not just 1 foot.
So we already kind of touched on it, but where is Bigfoot known to be? The northwestern United States and western Canada. The majority of Bigfoot sightings take place in woods and forested areas. The legend of Bigfoot has roots in indigenous myths and legends. But like we mentioned, there's a lot of different variations of Bigfoot. He's well known. I mean, you were going from Louisiana to Ohio to the Pacific Northwest. He's not
over. And everywhere in between too.
And everywhere in between. He's not a super localized cryptid. Growing up, I really thought like I want to go to the redwood forests and find Bigfoot. And it's like I could just stay in Ohio.
You find a grass man.
Save some money. So now let's talk about some of the elements of a Bigfoot encounter. Essentially, what people normally experience or what might occur if you find yourself near a Bigfoot. So more often than not, in these cases, these sightings take place in woods. So, you're hunting, you're camping, you're hiking. So, if Bigfoot's around, there's normally 2 senses of yours that are getting hit. The first is the feeling of being watched. Just that really creepy, something's around you, something's peeking at you, following your every step. Kind of like the Dark Watchers when you're talking about that.
That's interesting.
See, it's not the Dark Watchers, just Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's better. I wonder, you think it's like intelligent enough? I'm sure we'll get to this much later. But the intelligence to actually be like watching and like understanding what's going on.
Dr. Squatch. I think, well, what you're bringing up is going to be, I think, something we discuss when it comes to the idea of what is a Bigfoot. So that feeling is 1, and 2, the stench, which you already mentioned, but it's like it has no discernible location. You're just hiking, and then you just smell this thing. You got this feeling like something's watching you, and then you also have this smell, and you're just like, ugh.
Is it like a distinct smell, or is it like a body?
No, it hasn't. From what I read, it wasn't like a decaying body or like a skunk. It was maybe the skunk ape has that smell. That would make sense, but just bad.
Yeah, just not good.
This is not a good scent, not a good fragrance.
Hot garbage.
Get some center out there. Additionally, people say that the woods can become eerily quiet, essentially not meaning a lack of insects. You're not hearing the birds chirping. That like eerie stillness, even like the wind just feels like it's done. Like it's just like a vacuum, just like air sound gone.
That's interesting. That's because I wonder if that has to do with where it's coming from.
What do you mean?
I wonder if that vacuum comes from dimension shifting.
Hoover.
What? Hoover? Herbert Hoover? Get out of here.
He smells like shit, but he keeps his forest clean. So noises and behaviors that are attributed to Bigfoot include howling, shrieking,
Wah!
grunting,
Ooh.
Knocking on trees.
I'll stop now.
You can do the knocking. Yeah. That sounds like a tree. Throwing rocks, pebbles, or acorns. What do you got? Yep. Whistling. Can you whistle?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my man. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
Every dog in like a 3-mile radius was just like, huh?
I know, right?
And everyone listening. The throwing rocks is a strange one. I don't want some 10-foot tall, really buff dude throwing a rock.
Rocks. It's not cute. It's not like out of like a boyfriend movie where they broke
to get
up.
The window?
Yeah.
Say anything?
Smash.
Is that right John Cusack, Ben? Is that John Cusack? Say anything with the...
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that would turn me into like the Randy Johnson part. But I don't think it is I'm going to harm you with a rock. What a lot of experts believe it's a territorial thing.
Oh, okay.
It's like hey, I'm alerting to you nicely to let you know, go the away. This is my area. Get your own neck of the woods.
I feel like it's so strong, though, that even if it wasn't trying to hurt you, it still definitely could.
Probably by like the third human it's perfected the... All right, the
first two
died.
Are in the trees.
Yeah, so this one will be a gentle love tap. Bigfoot's very elusive, and I know I've mentioned it before, especially with you. I don't know how much we've talked about on the podcast, but they are known to climb trees.
Yeah.
To avoid your gaze. Just like the cheapest non-brand items in your local grocery store. They like to hide up there because they know you're not going to look up there. And I've talked about it before, and I can't even shut the person out properly.
I was going to say, do you have the video?
I don't know what it was like 6 years ago. But there was a really creepy video of like this paranormal Bigfoot hunter on YouTube, and he's got the camera facing him, which is silly. Well, I guess no. You're filming, you're talking to the audience.
He's like vlogging at the same time. But
like he like slows it down, and like the corner behind him of the frame, up in a tree, is like you just see a limb shift. And it's just like this dude is actively looking for Bigfoot, and he catches him behind him, and just like a little leg. It's just like he was there the whole time. It's like one of those perfect horror movie moments where like the camera starts zooming in on something, and you don't realize until the last second that whatever you're looking at is already in the frame. Scary stuff, but well done. Also, the howling and the shrieking would get me. Like if you have to imagine you're out at woods. Yeah. Maybe you're alone, maybe you're not alone, but there's not a lot of people around you. And you just hear from the distance this echo of this loud, creepy shriek.
Yeah.
I'm not great at identifying animal sounds.
I mean, I'm not either, but I feel like if I lived in a rural area, you'd be better at it, right?
Yeah, you're just sitting there like, yep, that sounds like a Bigfoot right there.
Oh, it sounds like a cougar. It sounds like a hyena. No, that's not native to America.
Hyena.
Sounds like some kind of animal. And then you would hear it and be like, oh, that's a Bigfoot.
That's just the old red-tailed squirrel tussling with a antelope.
That's the old man of the mountain there.
Apparently, from my memory, a deer has a pretty creepy hiss. Have you ever been hissed at by a deer? Or like the breathing, it does like a
beat the out of a deer.
Okay.
No, I've never heard that.
Okay, good. It's also believed that Bigfoot create nests.
It is Bigfoot's plural.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I should have known that since doing the damn thing. But. So think about sort of like teepee structures.
Yeah.
Apparently in Washington State, a team of Sasquatch researchers called the Olympic Project stumbled upon a Bigfoot nest made of dead trees and foliage. But also, if you remember, when we did the Ohio Grassman episode, there was an encounter story that we did where somebody stumbled upon a grassman nesting.
I do remember that, yeah.
So it made me think of that.
Kind of similar, which maybe they're not that unsimilar.
They got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And even they're probably paying income tax. Well, it's not income tax. You know what I'm talking about. Property. Finally, and I don't know how true this is. I found in descriptions, but not really any stories. Some people say that Bigfoot will kill a deer, eat the deer, and then hang their skeletons from trees.
Are there any pictures of that?
Nope.
All right.
It's one of those, like when you're reading an article about something and they're like, they do this.
Yeah.
But you don't even find stories about it. But that's like the ultimate no trespassing. Like whether it's Bigfoot or I'm in Wrong Turn 2, like I'm not walking past a deer skeleton piñata.
Well, like how does it, this is pretty morbid at this point, but how does it stay up? Like is there connective tissue?
Ooh. He goes to his local Home Depot and gets some rope.
Yeah.
Maybe he takes...
He could weave his own rope.
Yeah, he could take... they got nothing else to do. He could take some plants and wrap them together. And maybe that's why I don't see them. They always fall.
Yeah.
They come back the next day and they're like, damn it.
Let's see it.
Just get a sign, Jerry. So let's get into the history of Bigfoot and some of those bigger sightings. All right, history. You should love this shit, Charlie.
I'm excited for it.
This is probably, and also I got to say, and like we've done fairies, and I understand you're being a great sport right now. Nobody would know that you are not a Bigfoot fan thus far.
Oh, well, you got to play the game.
I feel like I'm not interested at all. I've been on my phone half the episode. Are we done yet?
It's interesting to hear about it.
That's all you can ask. I want that as a review. 5 stars. It's interesting to hear about it.
It'd be better than some of our 1 stars. So.
Experts assert that most cultures have some type of example of a human-like giant in their history.
Yeah.
Bigfoot is definitely, I would say, and I think they would say, on the more believable end when it comes to giants. Because it's not like, Cyclops type thing. It's just, a big, hairy, primate-ish type thing.
Yeah.
That nobody can ever find.
Mm.
In many cases, they're titled things like the wild man or the hairy man. For North America, many of the indigenous cultures include stories, tales of these mysterious, shaggy-haired, covered entities that live in the forest. And these stories obviously existed long before you read about them online, or the infamous Bigfoot itself. On the Tool River Indian Reservation, there's petroglyphs created by a tribe of Yokuts at a location titled Painted Rock. And these petroglyphs depict Bigfoot-like creatures, and it's apparently titled The Family. And some of these petroglyphs are estimated to be about 1,000 years old.
Are they wearing suits and are they smoking cigars and eating cannolis?
No.
The Family.
Although that would be good for the Sasquatch, the touch of gray.
Yeah,
with like the hair
the gun on the
slicked
side.
back.
Yeah.
They just use the dead deer fat to slick their hair back. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Last year when I was in New Mexico, we got to see some petroglyphs, which was pretty cool.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a rock that's got like a drawing painting on it.
Oh, cool.
It's some of them are really hard to see. Like there were even signs, but it was like in the distance, like a whole wall. Imagine like a whole side of a mountain or a hill and rocks.
Wow.
And this little sign that's like, there's a bird here, and it was created, we assume, in this year. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, I
don't see a thing.
I don't see it, but sometimes it's like clear as day. But you don't know like how far up to look, or
Yeah,
one
it's
way or the
probably
other.
easier if you have like binoculars or something too.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't come prepared. According to the Tulare County Board of Education in 1975, Bigfoot, the hairy man, was a creature that was like a great big giant with long, shaggy hair. His long, shaggy hair made him look like a big animal. He was good in a way because he ate them animals that might harm people. And that's a quote from them. And the Yokuts' parents warned their children not to venture near the river at night or they may encounter this creature. So here's an incident that I think eventually will be on the podcast. I mean, it'll be like 10 years from now. And we're going to need to find shit to talk about. And this will probably be one of them.
All right.
Not that I'm saying this isn't a low-value topic, because one day we will.
Not.
It's called the Ape Canyon Incident, if you're familiar. So July 1924, a story from the Oregonian gained national attention. It recounted a clash between gold prospectors and ape men near Mount St. Helens.
That's a good movie. That'd be a good movie. There's aliens involved too because it's Mount St. Helens?
No, but we can add that in there.
Yeah.
The prospectors encountered these ape-like men near their cabin, with one of the men, Fred Beck, firing at one. Later, they were attacked by the creatures, who threw rocks at the cabin and actually injured Beck. The men were terrified and quickly fled the area.
Oh, they lost.
Well, yeah. Well, they didn't lose. They just retreated.
Okay. Is there more?
No.
They lost then.
Okay. So the origin of the Bigfoot name. In the year 1958, a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew made a remarkable discovery in the Six Rivers National Forest of Humboldt County, California. While working for a logging company, he stumbled upon a set of gigantic 16-inch human-like footprints deeply imprinted in the mud.
Said, those are some big feet.
Them's big feet right there. Intrigued, Jerry informed his coworkers, and many shared tales of similar sightings on previous job sites, along with unexplained incidents like a 450-pound oil drum being mysteriously moved. The logging crew coined the term, quote, Bigfoot, unquote, to describe the apparent culprit behind these massive tracks. Initially, Jerry and his colleagues thought someone might just be playing a prank. But as more and more of these enormous footprints surfaced, he reached out to Andrew Gonzoli, a reporter from the Humboldt Times newspaper. Gonzoli interviewed the lumber workers and wrote articles about the mysterious footprints, introducing the name Bigfoot in relation to the tracks and the local legends of this large, hairy, wild man roaming around the area. A plaster cast was made of the footprints, and Jerry made the front page of the newspaper on October 6, 1958, holding one of these casts. The story quickly spread like wildfire, with Gonzoli receiving inquiries from major media outlets such as the New York Times and Los Angeles Times. Consequently, the term Bigfoot became a widespread reference to an apparently large, unknown creature leaving these massive footprints in Northern California, and thus we got Bigfoot.
It's just so obviously named.
Bigfoot.
He's got Bigfoot. I'm going to call it Bigfoot.
Yep.
It doesn't sit well.
What else would you call it? Giant soul?
No, I don't know.
Plantar.
I don't know.
Big? No, ginormous plantar.
I guess I don't know. If you're going purely off feet themed, it's probably the obvious choice. I don't know.
Taran Largo? No, I'm trying to think of like teeny Quentin Tarantino, like trying to find large out of Tarantino or Dan Schneider.
I don't know if there's one.
So here's a Live Science article. According to Live Science, there have been more than 10,000 reported eyewitness accounts of Bigfoot in the United States in the last 50 years. It's a lot. Yes, obviously, maybe all of them are true.
I don't think they are.
A couple might not be true. But let's get to the one you referenced earlier, the one that's in your mind, the famous Bigfoot mid-step gait photo. So the most famous Bigfoot video is a short film taken in 1967 by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, known as the Patterson-Gimlin film, or just the Patterson film. Gimlin got the stiff arm right there. Shot
Too wordy.
Bluff Creek. The video shows what appears to be a large and hairy bipedal ape, or Bigfoot, striding through a clearing. Striding's a good word. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Because you all know what this looks like. It's that,
yeah,
the funny
arms
gait.
out. Yeah.
The legs, he's looking to
like
the side. They make fun of it in Elf.
Huh?
They make fun of it in Elf.
They do, yeah. It's almost like someone's wearing a costume.
Some people might say the dimensions of like the shoulder and the elbow doesn't
I've heard
quite
those
fit
arguments.
the
I don't know.
dimensions. Yeah.
Maybe it's just poorly fitted.
Maybe. I don't know. Could be real. The video's authenticity is still debated by people like Charlie who are boring and always leave a party first and never bring snacks. That it could potentially just be a person in a gorilla suit.
Yeah.
Shame for shame. Here's another Live Science article. In an interview, one of the team members named Mireya Meyer, who is the director of exploration and science communications initiative in the College of Arts and Sciences and Education at Florida International University. Holy that's a lot right there.
Yeah. F.
Stated that are you going to come up with an acronym for that?
It is an acronym, I think, right?
Okay.
FSI.
ESCICASEFIU.
Imagine wearing a shirt with that on it. Like, what are you trying to spell?
Don't worry about it. It's probably still easier to say than all of that.
Probably.
That person, Mireya, I actually really like that name. Mireya Mayer, stated that a yet-to-be-discovered primate hiding in the Oregon. I would go with Oregon. Wilderness is totally within the realm of possibility. I like that she said totally. In fact, back in 2001, Mayer discovered a new species of moose lemur. And while the moose lemur is very tiny, she claims that a large primate could just as easily remain undetected by humans. Here's a quote. Quote, "We've seen that throughout history with other apes. When I went in search of western lowland gorillas, because of the dense vegetation that they live in fact they're not habituated and in fact avoid humans at all costs, there were times where we were no more than 3 feet away from a 450-pound silverback and we didn't even know it was there for a good hour or two." Unquote. So
3 feet away?
Yeah, for an hour or two? Isn't that kind of crazy?
That's really
It goes
crazy.
back to what we were talking about, though, the guy that was filming himself.
Yeah.
Like, actively looking, but just because of, like, how dense these forests are, or, camouflage, or how good they are at hiding.
Yeah.
It's not easy, y'all.
Can I play devil advocate a little bit here?
No, you can't.
Oh. Shoot. Those are gorillas, right? And they live in Africa and deep in the forest.
They might be in a zoo exhibit.
If she didn't know a gorilla was 3 feet away from her in a zoo, I think she needs to have her license revoked. But my point is there room for that in the urban environment of America? I guess it's not all urban where they live, but
are you saying like the dense forest? Like, are you saying like?
Yeah, I mean, forgive me. I don't know how dense it can get in the Pacific Northwest.
I've never been there, so I can't speak to it. I mean, I've been in forests in Ohio here where it's just like really thick, especially summertime, you know? Mm-hmm. But I personally cannot speak to the PNW. So if you're listening and you're from that area, let us know how thick your woods are. How many Cs?
Please.
Additionally, for the expedition in the Oregon wilderness, the team, the one that being interviewed by Life Science, captured on their thermal camera what appeared to be a large creature moving around in the woods. While they don't know for sure whether or not it was an actual Bigfoot, the video is quite compelling. Mayer described the creature as being, quote, very big and moving in an ape-like, if not bipedal, fashion, unquote. She went on to say that the footage was probably the most compelling piece of evidence that she's seen thus far, and that after showing the video to another primologist, person that studies primates, he was equally as impressed and agreed with her that, quote, something ape-like was far from its home. Mm-hmm. I assume that's how he spoke.
It sounds like it is.
I will post the video to Instagram so that y'all can see it and give us your thoughts. You have to wait for Instagram too. Do you want to see it now, Charlie?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Any thoughts? I just showed you.
I dare you to find me an unshaky Bigfoot photo.
Yeah, it's not possible. I think he does something to the cameras. I think he makes you nervous.
Yeah.
Like when you're on a first date. Uh-huh. I think he gives you that effect. And your arm just gets shaky and you can't hold the camera straight.
Oh, no.
And it's too late to get the tripod because by the time you set it up, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Even like a monopod, like a stick pod.
Selfie stick.
Yeah.
But then you're still shaking.
Shaking.
It's we haven't come to the proper technical conclusion to film.
Not yet. Bigfoot. We will one day.
So there's a lot more information. There's way more legends. I mean, you can go into all these different Native American tribes and, you know, indigenous cultures. There's much more we could go into. I was very transparent at the top. This is like 101.
Yeah.
So that's an overview of the history, some of the bigger hits of Bigfoot. So we got 2 more sections before we get to the end into the discussion.
Okay.
We got what Bigfoot could be.
Okay.
And we got encounters. Charlie, what do you do to stay safe at home?
I lock my doors.
Well, yeah, but what else?
I have dogs.
I mean, besides physically.
Oh, okay, I understand. I psychically protect my brainwaves from the government with my aluminum foil shields. Okay.
What Charlie should be doing is using Surfshark VPN.
And besides security, Surfshark also lets you get past things like geoblocks. You want that new Russian dubstep hip-hop cover of Running Up That Hill? Surfshark lets you get past the Iron Curtain and back.
Hey, have you been to a coffee shop and thought, can I afford this latte?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Well, now you can check the bank on public Wi-Fi without worrying about being hacked and see if you can proudly order that double shot of raspberry syrup or, you know, have to sneak off in shame until payday.
You still unsure about personal security? Surfshark also has a special Surfshark alert that monitors your own personal data and checks for real-time breaches.
They do be searching.
So take action today. Secure your privacy with Surfshark.
Use the coupon code BIZARRE for an extra 3 months free at surfshark.deals/bizarre today. What could Bigfoot be?
I mean, there's a couple of answers here. I'm interested to hear what you're going to say.
Yep. First one, fake. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
That's clearly not true. The first one is cryptid / natural to Earth.
Okay.
From Earth, grown here, homegrown.
Corn.
So it's this entity that's somewhere between man and ape.
The missing link, right?
And yeah, the missing link. They've just evaded us outside of shrieks and shaky photographs. Oh, I guess to be, you know, camera videos.
It's my Bigfoot shriek.
It sounded like a crow.
Oh.
People say that Bigfoot appears to have definite human characteristics, especially in the facial features.
How do they know? They haven't like gone up to him and like touched its face, you know?
You don't have to touch a face to say it looks like it has human facial features.
How close do you get though? Like how close do you get?
You just zoom in on these pictures.
I guess so. That's the only thing you could do.
Yeah. But it's just this idea. It's like it is its own thing. Whether it comes from humans or it just happens to be something like us, it's from here. It's a cryptid. They live up in their dwellings or in trees. They're constantly on the move. They're fast. One issue that some people have with Bigfoot in general and kind of falls into this camp, since we're talking about it being a naturally occurring physical entity, is the lack of bodies.
Yeah. That's one of my things.
Some people say they cannibalize them. The people die, and they're like, we're eating good tonight. It's dinner time. But maybe it's like more like the thankful. It's like the circle of life. Like not like I'm going to kill you to eat you. It's you're dead. I loved you, but you served your purpose, and you're going to live forever until I go number 2 behind that bush.
This is how we mourn. We eat what we leave behind. I understand. What about bones?
They use them to make ropes to hang their deer skeletons.
The deer bones?
Yeah, they bury them. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
They bury their dead, maybe. I don't know.
All right.
They just throw them real far.
Even if they throw them far, we'll probably find some eventually. Unless they do, I'll bury them. But or maybe they know how to make good stock and they just boil them down. Whoa. What?
No, I didn't think of that.
I don't think that's true.
They're the biggest proponents of bone broth.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very, the Sasquatch are very keto.
Bone broth is good.
So that's kind of like the first idea. Cryptid, naturally occurring. You don't know where it comes from, but I mean, that's how it is for most cryptids. Not all of them have that beginning.
Yeah.
But let's move into what I think is the most interesting idea. The ultra-dimensional / interdimensional alien-related entity. Ultra-dimensional is a phrase from John Keel, if you're familiar.
Oh, yeah, I know John.
So it's parallel dimensions. That's
what
ultra means. I'll be honest, like I said, I find this very fun. Paranormal researcher William Hall believes that there are particular signs of entities that possess the ability to sift between dimensions. Mm-hmm. He lists ghosts, aliens, and Bigfoot as examples.
All right.
And these signs include being able to disappear incredibly fast without leaving any trail, being incredibly elusive, and to be located in multiple areas. Here's a quote. Quote, "It used to be that UFO people didn't talk to ghost people because they were a little weird, and nobody would talk to the Bigfoot people because they were crazy.
Yeah.
I found out we cannot continue to do that. In reality, quantum physics is leading us there." Unquote. So the idea is that it's like, these are all potentially interconnected.
Yeah.
They're like the ghost people, the alien people, and the Bigfoot people can all sit at the table. They can all have some stuffing and mashed potatoes.
I understand that. Like, it's all kind of one thing. It's all kind of rolled into one thing. Like, maybe they're all part of the same, Godhead, if you will.
The same, cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Renowned Bigfoot hunter Bill Brock suggested the idea about multi-dimensional portals. Brock referenced a recent NASA announcement that magnetic portals may be real. Brock said he came to believe in them when he traveled to West Virginia to study the Mothman case. In Penning's Bigfoot research, he discovered tracks of something very large running bipedal, chasing a deer. However, once the bipedal entity's footprints caught the deer, so essentially you would assume it ran, it grabbed the deer, right? Mm-hmm. This thing grabbed the deer. Both footprints of the deer and the Bigfoot completely vanished. Oh. So he's seeing deer footprints, Bigfoot footprints. It catches it, gone.
The deer got abducted?
Well, it's like the Rick and Morty. Like, he dove, grabbed it, shot out with his little laser beam a portal, and they flew through it.
You think
that's why the deer skeletons can't hang? They keep leaving them in the other dimension.
You think that's like the Bigfoot is causing the portals?
That's one of the theories. Yeah, that they can travel between them. I don't think they're stumbling through portals. The idea would be that they have some access to traveling interdimensional. It's not happening to them.
And
they have control of it.
Do you think that, I was going to ask, do you think they're privy of it? Like, do they know this is happening?
Yeah. They're doing it.
Okay.
They're on that Stephen Hawking, man.
So, okay. So, it's a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Right? It has full access to these portals.
Mm-hmm.
It knows what's going on completely.
Well, we don't know the rules of the portals. We just know that would be, well, okay. This theory assumes that they can travel via portals. I don't think it's like a ring of light appears and they walk through it and then Tobey Maguire comes out. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I've never seen it. I think it's just the idea that they can shift dimensions.
Okay.
Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that means.
Portal makes me think circle, but I think it's just like it is their it is their exit strategy.
I just, the hardest part for me is thinking that they have knowledge of how to work this interstellar, interdimensional shift, and yet still are hunting down deer barehanded. We
don't know they're hunting barehanded. We don't know anything.
You said the last thing you just said about the deer. They grappled the deer.
Well, I said grappled. I said it's assumed that it grappled it.
Yeah, we're assuming that.
He might have shot them, in the head. We don't know. All we know is once the Bigfoot tracks reached the deer tracks.
Yeah.
Whatever happened there, they both disappeared.
Okay. All right.
Penning is quoted as also saying, "These portals could be why we don't see any bodies, why there are no bones."
Yeah,
unquote.
I've heard that.
Yeah. David McCullough, a member of Team Sasquatch-Massachusetts, had a Bigfoot encounter that involved orbs of bright lights in the woods. And the connection between spirits or aliens and Bigfoot seems to deepen with people coming forward saying they have these Sasquatch encounters while also seeing bright lights, these orbs, at the same time.
I'm glad you said while also seeing bright lights, because I was like, if he's just seeing bright lights and calling it a Sasquatch encounter, I'm like, those are two different things.
Yeah, no, you're seeing both.
Okay.
Jack Lapseritis, author of The Psychic Sasquatch, tells a story of a group of people that had an amazing encounter with Bigfoot. The story came from a Mrs. Jeffrey, whose story Jack summarized as follows. Quote, "After returning from a long hike, the group was stunned when a 9 to 10 foot tall Sasquatch stepped out in front of them a short distance away. Then, in the twinkling of an eye, the Bigfoot completely disappeared in front of them. The witnesses insisted that it literally dematerialized in front of them. Mrs. Jeffrey reported that she was so awed at what she saw that when they returned home, she didn't leave the house for 2 weeks. The woman was in such a total state of shock that she didn't return to the area for quite a long time." Unquote.
That's not shock, that's agoraphobia.
But he dematerialized.
Yeah, okay. No, I understood.
That's what you take away from it. Don't worry about her. Is she fine?
Okay.
She did this interview, so it was,
she got out eventually.
Although, there's like a, this is not what we're talking about at all, but this is just something I want to talk about because we just mentioned it, kind of. The phenomenon of where you feel safe.
Yeah.
There are some entities where it's like, if you separate yourself from the location, it's like, I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked a little bit about it maybe with aliens and the UFOs, like with the stories that we've told where people feel like they're being stalked on the way home by like an alien.
Mm-hmm.
Or like demonic things. Like, it's if a home is haunted, you can leave the home and you're like, okay, like I'm going to the grocery store. I have a sense of safety. I'm out of that space.
Mm-hmm.
But like if it's an alien or, like something that dematerializes, it's like you don't know the rules. You don't know where it could pop up. Like there's probably an extra layer of anxiety of like, is it here? Am I safe anywhere? Like there's certain entities and stories and hauntings like that where it just like that just like makes my spine shiver.
Well, I'm thinking about that specific listener submission from I think it was Alien Encounters.
Yeah.
Extraterrestrial Encounters.
Yes.
Where like the one stalked the guy home and then he heard rattling on his doors.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like, was it missing time or something?
Yeah. I that was the one I was referring to in my mind too.
Yeah.
But it's just the idea that you don't know where you're safe. And the anxiety of that is like in a movie with like Jason or Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he can follow you and things, but it's like if he's behind you and you drive away, there's a certain level of like, I'm good for now.
Yeah.
Where it's like a Jeepers Creepers or like It Follows, like that feeling of like, am I ever safe anywhere? It's just, I don't like it. So to reiterate, the theory of the interdimensional. No bodies. They're seen everywhere. They're not native to one location, which some people are using to support the interdimensional theory because it means they don't need to be native to a specific spot or localized to a certain area. If they can go interdimensionally or interdimensional travel, they can go anywhere. They can be the Ohio grassman. They can be the skunk ape. They can be the Honey Island swamp monster, and so on. Tracks that appear to go nowhere or stop mid-stride, and these orbs of lights that accompany some sightings. All trying to back up this theory of a multi-dimensional Bigfoot.
It's interesting. I wonder where the lights come from in that Bigfoot's like world, you know?
Yep. I think you put it best. It's interesting to hear it. What'd you say? It's interesting to hear about it?
Interesting to hear about it.
Yep. Let's move on to sightings. Are you ready to get into these?
Are we at Bigfoot encounters?
Oh, yeah.
Bigfoot encounter. How many are there? 1,000?
Yes.
In this episode?
Yep.
Okay.
We're starting a podcast within our podcast, and it begins right now.
Yeah.
We're never going to see episode 208. It's just going to be...
Point 1, point 2, point 3.
Yes. So number one, this took place in 2021. It's from bfro.net.
Okay.
Quote, on January 23rd, 2021, a potential Bigfoot sighting occurred just south of Garberville, California on Highway 101. A man named Rick Bates made the sighting between Benbow Inn and Richardson Grove. In his report explaining his sighting, Mr. Bates wrote in part, quote, the road makes a few turns and the speed limit drops in the area. As I rounded a sweeping right-hand turn, I saw a figure on the southbound shoulder of the highway. I was the only vehicle in the area around 8:15. My speed was around 45 to 50 miles per hour as I passed the figure, unquote. He went on to describe the creature. The figure was laying on the shoulder of the road on its right side. I estimated the height to be about 7 feet. I was looking at the creature's back and noticed it had broad shoulders and a thick torso shape. While the shape was similar to a human, it was definitely not human. It was not a bear either. I could see muscular features in its glutes and a head on the shoulders that was somewhat tapered toward the top and being held off the ground. Its hair was brown and very coarse. The hair was not like fur of a bear at all, unquote. The next thing he did was turn his car around and drove back to the site where he witnessed the creature, but when he returned to the location, the figure was completely gone. He noted that he spent a lot of time in the woods as an avid fisherman and hunter, so he was very familiar with the area and had never encountered anything like that before, unquote.
We gotta call the police. This guy's looking at Bigfoot's butt.
The glutes?
Yeah.
Muscular
He's
glutes?
like, muscular glutes.
You don't think that would stand out? Okay.
If Bigfoot had a bubble butt.
Yeah. Listen. He squats, all right?
Yeah.
He's Sasquatch. Listen. If you're looking at a bear, you're not going to see glutes. I think that's why he stuck out. He didn't see that cute little bear nub.
He was
tail.
Like, she's thick.
Listen,
sorry.
I know it's silly, but I do believe in my heart that if you saw a Bigfoot and you told me about it, I would not be shocked if you mentioned his glutes. If you saw from behind, you're not going to tell him to do a twirl. You know, that Tyra Banks, you just look and you see it is laying down.
Also, what's it doing laying down on the side of the road?
Where they got to sleep. So, or maybe he got hit.
Bigfoot got hit.
Dude,
no one took it.
Interdimensional portal at the wrong time.
He pops in. There's a big truck going. Meh, meh.
He's like, oh, shit.
Interesting.
Done.
And then it dissolved back into the other dimension.
Or maybe he switched dimensions without realizing it. He was in his very nice, classy bed at home.
Yeah.
And the next thing he knows, on the side of the road, he's like, whoa.
I hope no one sees my butt.
Yeah, jeez. Okay. Let's settle down now. Encounter number 2. This is from Reddit. Takes place in 2022, and it's written by Neboium Sage. Quote, back in December of last year, I spent a few days at my sister's in rural Arkansas for the holidays. On the 28th, I went for a nature hike and happened upon a quaint little glade on the edge of a nearby river where it was particularly tranquil shade of bluish green. I already believe this is fake. I'm sorry. This is how I feel. Anyways, after immortalizing the scene by taking a video, I noticed that decently sized rocks were being moved around from the other side of the river and that the water had carved out at least 100 feet away from me. I don't think I properly caught it on camera, but I wish I did. It was as if the rocks were being disrupted by an invisible person. I took note of this strange experience before scaling the hill on the side of the river and venturing a little deeper into the woods. It wasn't long before I began to hear a knocking from the area, and I'd seen the rocks being moved about, so I began recording once more. The knocking went on for some time before I decided to move. I happened upon a fallen tree laid between a small standing tree and a U-shape. I'm not the most well-versed in cryptozoology, but I have heard of Sasquatch marking their territory by log arrangements not unlike what I was looking at. Doesn't mean it didn't happen naturally or was propped up that way by a person, but it still stood out to me. For a while, the knocking was sparse, happening only at distant intervals, but much later it became more frequent, and I even heard what sounded like tree trunks being snapped. It was a loud crunching noise that happened a few times over. After these crunches, however, the noises stopped outright, and after crouching down for a few more minutes to see if I could capture the source of these sounds on my camera, I headed back out of the woods to my sister's house. I remember the walk back being a pretty mortifying experience. Nothing frightening happened on my way out, but the paranoia of this thing causing the knocking and crunching showing up had me on edge till I reached the road at least. Unquote. So we got knocking and the idea of potentially coming up on a dwelling and very large things being moved.
Mm-hmm. It's scary. It could be scary.
I think it's one of those you have to be there scary. It's the feeling. It's the feeling of being stalked. You don't know if you're in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I was actually thinking about the other day was
Bigfoot?
Nope. That forest. I forget what it's called.
The forest.
Hocha.
Oh, the Hoya Bachu.
Yeah, Hoya Bachu Forest. I wonder if...
You want to go?
I would actually like to go. That'd be pretty cool. I wonder if that feeling is kind of like what it would be like there.
I think if you see anything unsettling anywhere, you're going to get that feeling. Like, even if you left the studio right now and you went in the hallway, if there was one detail that you found unsettling, you would feel creeped. It's just that. You know, it doesn't really matter where you are. It helps that this guy's completely alone.
Yeah.
And he's only got his camera and his thesaurus with him. But I feel like if under any circumstance where you feel like something could be watching you or creeping, or you're in the midst of something out of the ordinary, you're gonna get those creeps.
Yeah,
that's what I think happened here.
Sometimes the paint in the hallway, not out there, gives me the creeps.
It's very backrooms-ish. It's very like haunted hotel hallway.
It's just very 60s office building.
Ooh,
yeah. Ooh, outdated office.
The corporate ladder. All right, story number 3, also from Reddit, takes place in 2023, written by the Big Fat Moderator.
What?
That's their name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel like it's my due diligence to shout out the people that are writing these. So if you like these stories, you can actually,
email them?
No, just go look at
this stuff.
Yeah, you can read it along while I'm reading it out loud.
If you want.
I'll tell you to ding, scroll the page. Ding, you may now scroll the page. Quote, well, basically, I was hiking Sourdough Mountain. Is that really? It is, yeah. I was hiking Sourdough Mountain in the North Cascades. It's a pretty grueling hike, like 13 miles, 6,000 feet of elevation.
Mountain named Sourdough is grueling? I feel like that's not properly named.
Well, I met a couple at the trailhead and we hiked together. I would hate that, by the way.
Oh, I hate
that.
it.
Oh my God.
Meet someone in the woods.
It's I love it when it happens in a movie, but if I was with my group of friends and someone was like, hey, can I tag along?
You? Like, hell no.
No.
I don't know you.
Bye.
We're not
killer.
Friends. Yeah, no. Exactly. What do you got planned up ahead, monster?
Anyways.
When you guys go hiking on Saturday, if someone meets up with you guys and says, hey, can I join you for like 2 miles?
I was joining us the whole time. They're going to be like, you guys almost where you going? Almost. Only about 35 more of these to go. Halfway up the mountain, at a small clearing, I hear a tree knock. Then 2 more tree knocks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like someone banging on a tree with a baseball bat. If you've ever hiked an actual mountain, the notion that someone is off trail, way deep in the timber, pranking someone by banging on trees is insane, while you're 3 hours up the side of a steep mountain. Anyway, nothing else happened at that point, and we reached the peak around 3:30 p.m. There were a few hikers coming down the mountain as we started pretty late in the morning, so we were the last ones there. After enjoying the view, we started our way back down. The couple was hiking pretty quickly, so I fell behind as I was enjoying the views and the berries and basically just the entire experience. The couple disappeared from view and I was totally alone. Now, I know you're supposed to make noises while hiking, as there's tons of bears up there, so I was just singing a little song to myself to make some noise, when all of a sudden, I hear rustling and footsteps over my right shoulder. It sounded like bipedal, but I knew there were no people behind me, so it really started freaking me out a bit. Then the footsteps would mirror mine, exactly on pace. I would stop, and the rustling would stop. I would start, and then they would start again. This really creeped me out, but I'd still no idea what it was. Then the entire forest went totally silent. It was like a heavy blanket was just over the atmosphere. No wind, no birds, no bugs, nothing. This was the creepiest moment I've ever experienced until a short while later. It was such a strong feeling. It was like 2 laser beams were burning into my head. I was being watched. I felt like I was a prey animal and some predator was about to attack me. Just this total instinctual fear. I continued hiking and turning around to see what it was, but I kept seeing nothing. I turned around a few more times until I reached a small clearing in the trees and turned and looked, and there it was. Sitting about 80 yards away up the mountain. It was sitting or standing, I'm not exactly sure because the bottom half was covered by leaves and bushes, but there it was. A giant, hairy man-looking creature. It was dark brown and had long hair all over. It didn't look like fur. It really looked like hair. This thing had massive shoulders. It looked like an old-school football player with pads on, with no neck. Its head looked like it was right on the shoulders. It had huge eye sockets and a brow ridge. I couldn't believe it was real. I was in shock and awe as I stared at this thing. When I looked into its eyes, it's like I got complete total tunnel vision and was hypnotized. I felt like I was in a trance as I was staring at it. I said under my breath, "Holy shit," and did a small nervous laugh. That's when it moved its arms. It was so massive, and when it moved, that's when I snapped out of my trance and my logical brain took over, and I felt the most intense fear and dread I've ever experienced in my life. It felt like I was about to die or get eaten, so I quickly turned around and continued hiking down the mountain. I just turned away and left, and I didn't hear anything after that. I ran down the mountain so fast, it was supposed to take 2.5 to 3 hours. It only took me an hour and a half. I didn't stop running until I got to my car. Unquote.
I like that story.
That's a good hiking. I love those stories, man. I love those stories. Do you know what it made me think of, though? And I don't, like, he saw it. If he didn't see anything, this would have more merit. Do you remember when we would ghost hunt in the cemetery and you would hear your footstep echo bounce off the cemetery, like the graves?
And you're like...
It sounded like somebody else was walking, but you were just hearing the echoes. At first, when I was reading this, I was like, I wonder if he's just...
Because bounce, though?
Well, I don't know. The rocks. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's just like, it was just the idea of it starting right when he started, right? You know, if I had to be boring, boo-hoo, you know, call it fake, because, you know, I'm never skeptic. But if I had to, I would say maybe it was him making his own sound that he was just hearing reverberated back to him.
But then he sees it.
Well, yeah, he sees it. I'm saying it doesn't hold merit because he saw it.
Yeah.
But up until that point, that's what I was thinking.
Wow, it was just sitting there.
Sitting or standing. He couldn't tell.
I feel like if it's covered by leaves, it's sitting.
Probably. But he would have seen it, right?
Maybe not. Maybe it's a couple.
I guess it wasn't on the trail, though, right? Or was it on? If it was on the trail, wouldn't he have seen it if it was sitting there?
I think it must have been off the trail.
Nice beard scratching the mic there.
I didn't mean to.
All right, this fourth story, also from Reddit, Garth Dillon, 1986. This one hits home for me, so I had to include it.
Oh, no. This is not in Ohio, is it?
Quote, the fall of 1986, it was mid-October, and I was 26 years old in northeastern Ohio, on the county line between Lake and Ashtabula County.
I know where that is.
Yeah, I grew up there, man. The time was approximately 3 a.m. I was in a Honda 650cz motorcycle, going home after bartending at Geneva on the Lake. Listen.
Oh, my God.
The fact that I'm saying Geneva on the Lake.
That's crazy.
In a story on Believing the Bizarre.
It's a big bike place.
I worked at a family-owned restaurant for 6 years, and their competitor, it wasn't their real competitor, but their competitor in their mind was at Geneva on the Lake.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool place. I've been through there a couple times. Just
good place to putt
My
putt.
father-in-law was like, "Oh, we ran that place back in the day." I'm like, "I'm sure you did, Jim."
Yeah, I believe it. You know, go there, play some putt putt, get some donuts. You know. Anyways, about 100 yards ahead of me, I clearly see a tall, broad, hairy, upright, man-like creature cross the road east to west. I slowed down as I approached the area, which was heavily wooded and extremely overgrown. Sounds like Ashtabula.
Yeah, it does.
There were deep ditches on either side of the road. I was in second gear going about 25 miles per hour as I passed the spot. When I saw the creature standing in the ditch looking directly at me, we were only probably about 6 feet apart. Its face was a combination of ape-like and Neanderthal, but very human-like. It had a heavy brow ridge over dark eyes, a wide, flat nose, and a very wide mouth and square teeth. It was smiling at me. This scared the living shit out of me, and I gunned the bike, looking away and concentrated on controlling the bike as best I could. I looked back a couple seconds later, and the creature was running after me, still smiling. I drove as fast as I could for the next couple miles, feeling like it was still behind me, but I never looked. I only lived 5 miles from that spot. My family owned 175 acres of mixed farmland forested space north of the Grand River. It should not have been hard to pinpoint exactly where my counter was. I no longer have any attachment to that area, and it's since been built upon. I only wonder if the creature is still up there. This encounter changed my life. I didn't ride my motorcycle around there anymore. I avoided the road for almost a year. I began carrying a .357 Magnum around whenever I was outside the house and working outside. I never camped out again till after I moved to a different state. Unquote.
All those things sound very Ohio.
The chasing you smiling thing.
Yeah.
Also, and this is another, I feel like I keep coming back to the idea of vulnerability exposure. Having an experience like that on a motorcycle where it can grab you.
That's scarier than a car, though.
One, you can't, like, I wouldn't be able to look back because I don't have that much balance. You know, like
They also have mirrors.
when I turn, my arms turn is, you know, they have mirrors, but he was saying he was like looking.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, this thing could grab you.
Yeah.
Like you are so exposed. But obviously, you know, I had to include that one because it's wild.
I thought you were gonna stop at tall broad. I was like, he's calling a girl tall. No, like tall broad.
Tall broad. It was the 80s.
Yeah.
I got one last encounter for you.
And yeah, in episode 1 of this.
Yeah. Oh, there's a million more. More. Mm-hmm. Every other episode is going to be a Bigfoot.
Hope not.
For the rest of forever.
Unleash the floodgates.
So this is from Phantoms and Monsters and takes place in 2024.
Oh, this year.
Yeah.
Dang.
Last 3 months. Quote, on this trip, I decided to hike an old Indian trail that followed the ridge tops from Saddle Blanket Mountain to Oak Ridge in Oregon, one of the Native Americans' favorite summer camps and trading centers. It was a beautiful August day, so no, it took place in 2023, you fucking liars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2023. It was a beautiful August day, 2 days into the hike, when literally out of the blue, the most terrifying thing ever happened to me in my entire life. It would change my perspective of reality forever.
Forever.
That's the tease. You feel teased?
I do feel teased.
I didn't write that. They wrote that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the tease? That's silly.
That's the first part of the story.
That's what they said. This is the tease.
Please keep reading.
Was that scary?
No. That's a good callback. Quote, I was walking along the trail enjoying the strong breeze and the bright sunshine when, in the middle of a step, everything around me started to turn gray and blurry. The only way I can describe it was as if suddenly I was looking through someone else's prescription sunglasses. I finished the step and started another. Every inch I moved forward, the darkness increased, and the gray blurring turned into a jumble of shapes that made no sense. I then seemed to pass a barrier, and everything started to return back into focus. When my foot reached the ground on the second step, everything around me changed. Day had turned into night, and there was no wind. All the Douglas fir and pine trees had been replaced with thick, jungle-like growth. The cool, thin mountain air was replaced with humid, thick air. There were no stars in the skies, but there was a diffused light that let me see everything clearly. However, I couldn't tell what the light source was. As often happens when the human body receives a massive dose of adrenaline, the entire incident appeared like it was in slow motion. Even though I was only there for a second or two, I had time to observe my surroundings. The silence was broken by continuous high-pitched screaming sound. I was nearly overwhelmed with a sense of fear and danger. My momentum caused me to take one more step before stopping in my tracks. It was at this point I heard a whispered voice over my right shoulder. I couldn't tell if I heard it with my ears or if it was inside my head. The voice wasn't directed at me, but something said it so quietly to itself. I was terrified. I actually felt my heart stop for a moment. That whispered voice is what saved me. I opened my mouth and gasped in a huge gush of thick air and recoiled backward in the same footsteps I'd entered wherever I was. As I threw myself backward, I looked over my right shoulder. A dark-colored, hairy right hand and arm were reaching for my throat over my shoulder. The hand had pale ivory spade-shaped fingernails. The nails looked clean and almost had a manicured look to them. The thumb was placed lower, almost towards the wrist, on the hand, more so than a human's. Both hands and arms were thin and powerful looking, and both were covered with thick, coarse black hair. I got a good look at it because the thumbnail grazed my neck as I moved backwards. As I continued backward, the hand clutched where my neck had been a split second before, and it seemed to fade off into the distance as I returned through the portal. I took 2 more steps backwards, and everything reversed itself from what had just happened. The world around me became lighter. The fir and pine trees gradually came back into view, and by the 3rd step, I was back on Saddle Blanket Mountain. I continued to move backward in terror, and as I did, I observed that where I'd come from was a shimmering oval patch of air about the size of a door. The woods behind it looked like it was underwater. By the 5th backward step, the shimmering area seemed to just evaporate and everything was back to normal. By then, my lungs had nearly burst from the volume of air I'd inhaled during the huge gasp I had taken. My body felt like it was on fire from the adrenaline surge. I spun around and ran back the trail as fast as my legs would carry me, and didn't stop until I reached my truck. It took nearly 2 days to get to that place, and about 3 hours to get back. On my way home, I was absolutely horrified at the thought of what would have happened if I were to drive my truck into something like that. It had been a trap, pure and simple. Whatever it was that tried to kill me somehow kept the portal hidden from me on the way in, and I didn't actually see it until I was back out again. I had terrible nightmares for years, and still haven't come to grips with what happened. My fingers are trembling, and the hair is standing on my neck as I write this. Unquote.
What do you think the voice said?
I don't know. I think it was like his, the way he's kind of presenting it is like him waking himself up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, stop. Like, don't do this.
It's interesting how it just turns from the deciduous forest or even the pine forest
to a jungle. That was a really interesting description of the portal too. Like shimmering air, like the size of a door. But I mean, like, if you believe in the interdimensional aspect of a Bigfoot, I mean, that could be a fake, well-written, creative story for sure. But it definitely fits the idea of like these things travel, but and you know, snatch people or snatch animals or things, but also like so creepy to think that he's like, it was a trap, pure and simple. Like a trap, like putting the portal right on the trail.
What if it wasn't a trap for him? What if it was a trap for like a deer or something?
He's like trying to push him out of the way. I don't know. He was going to take him.
Yeah, he was.
You're not a deer, but your skeleton.
I mean, how many people go missing in the woods, though?
A lot. We've talked about it. Missing 411. It's just Bigfoot, y'all. You thought it was the mysterious staircases. Who lives up there? Bigfoot. All right, now is the time that we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this podcast, include Levi, Sophia, Josh, Kyle, and Bethany. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon, supporting the podcast. One thing I want to shout out, because I love it so much, I love the engagement, and it's one of my favorite things ever to record, is social media response, Charlie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
For those of you that follow us on Instagram or Facebook, if you're on Facebook, you're pretty. It's like Whose Line Is It Anyway? You're kind of playing for fun on Facebook.
Points don't matter.
But on Instagram, every Monday you'll see a post, a question created by the mind of producer Ben, and y'all respond to them. And at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, We go through and we record and we read the question. We go through a bunch of your answers and respond to your answers.
Yeah.
And then we answer the questions ourselves.
It's a good time.
It's laid back. It's fun. And it's always like a good variety of topics, like from horror movies to cryptid encounters. You know, it's just like, would you rather do this or do that? It's just fun, laid back paranormal talk.
I got to listen to the last one because I wasn't on it. So I got to listen for the first time. And it was just such an interesting experience. I liked listening
but
to it
not
a lot.
being there.
I mean, yeah, it's cool.
That's why I kept asking you if you'd want to remember it if you were abducted. Because you weren't there for that experience, so I had to keep asking you it.
I know. And I said yes every time.
What is something you would like people to know about from our Patreon, Charlie?
Oh, man. Well, back to producer Ben, who is in the room, which is weird. Not typically in here while we record stuff like this, but something else that he maestros is remembering the bizarre. I feel like I pitched this last time, but I don't care.
You always pitch whatever we're going to record that day.
It's because I have a limited mind. There's only so much RAM that fits here.
What I'm saying is, I don't know if you could have pitched it last time because we didn't do it last time.
Okay, well that makes sense.
You might have, I don't know.
Remember the bizarre. It's a game where Ben listens to a previous older episode from way back.
It's a guaranteed download.
Yeah, and Tyler and I get to play co-op and try to see if we can pass the quiz.
Player 1,
and
Charlie.
Of course, you guys are welcome to play as well. I'm curious every time who passes, who doesn't.
If you were player 1 and you had a player 1 version 2, what would be the difference between your player skin 1 and 2? What would be the difference?
They would probably be wearing like a white shirt and like...
I've never seen you in my life wear a white shirt.
That's why I'd be player 2.
And this one has holes in the socks.
This one doesn't have holes in the socks.
Mine would be long hair backwards hat.
Oh, yeah.
And this one is short hair hoodie.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. Makes sense.
Sometimes your hair is shaggy and you used to wear that sweater vest sometimes. You know what I'm talking
about? Yeah. I still have that somewhere.
So anyway, there's a lot of stuff.
They always look the same.
There's a lot of stuff on Patreon. A lot of bonus content, quizzes, games, extra segments. We watch movies together. We watch movies on our own and review them. You can get merch, hoodies, t-shirts, exclusive annual pins. Go check it out. There's 4 different tiers. A bunch of extra bonus content. I think we said before there's like 8 pieces of content every month new. So it's super exciting and we appreciate everyone in there. We appreciate all of our new patrons. Let's get to the discussion. All right, it is discussion time. It's Bigfoot, y'all.
It's a big discussion for Bigfoot.
It is Bigfoot, big feet discussion. And we're talking about Shaquille O'Neal.
Plural. Remember Bigfoot?
Bigfoots, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, the only other time it came up was when you brought it up.
That's true.
So here's how I want this to go. If you feel so inclined to talk about one of the encounters, we can dive into any of those encounters and we can use them as arguments for what we bring up. But okay. I want to focus on, one, do we think Bigfoot's even real?
Yeah, it's a big question.
Is it just people in suits that makes no sense because the dimensions of arms, shoulders, and elbows? Mm-hmm. Or, is whatever. And then the second point is, what could Bigfoot be?
Okay.
So start off, and please save my voice.
Okay.
What do you think Bigfoot's real? And it's kind of like asking you the believability scale, but I want to know your thoughts.
It's hard, and we didn't even talk about one of my favorite pieces of evidence, which was it was recent. It was the video in the train,
the Colorado one.
Yeah,
that's so volume 2. That's so volume.
It is, but I love that piece of evidence. That was really cool.
It's like the train and Bigfoot where they were like, because it's fast.
Yeah,
it's fast, and he was hiding on the hill. Mm-hmm. But they were kind of, at the same time, it was like 2 stars,
almost like 2 stars crossing in the night. Beautiful metaphor.
Cool. So I asked you a question, and you brought up something that I didn't even talk about in the episode.
All right. We're getting there.
Okay.
I was revving up to it.
Okay.
There's so much evidence. This is my point. I was getting at with that. There's so much really good evidence of Bigfoot. It is really hard to say whether Bigfoot is not real.
Except good quality footage or a body, right? Like those are the 2 things. And let me tell you. Well, no, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
I mean, and you're right, though. Those are like hard proof that we don't have.
Yeah.
Why don't we have them? It feels like it should be feasible to have at least bones, right? But we do, and we do have bones of things that we think are missing links. Mm-hmm. They're not of things
like skulls and things like that.
Yeah, but those aren't of Bigfoot. They're of like past humans, not even humans, but like relationships to humans. If you go with evolution,
Facebook friends,
you give them a poke. But my point being is like we don't have that hard evidence. But there's so much anecdotal evidence.
Yeah,
that's hard to ignore.
I used to struggle with that until the interdimensional theory came on my front door and ring the bell.
Yeah, I still don't buy that one. It's so hard for me to believe.
So okay, so I know you're not a Bigfoot fan. I know
typically not. No,
you're not a huge Bigfoot fan. But that doesn't make you not think it's not real. It just you don't find it very interesting, and that's fair. I'm not. I don't say that accusatory.
No, that's the truth of it.
That's how I feel about the chupacabra. I don't remember if I thought it was believable or not. I might have said unbelievable. I don't remember.
I think you went low.
I personally don't find it that intriguing, but that doesn't mean like it's not a bad story. It doesn't in this moment I'm not swaying whether or not I find it believable, but you lean more believable.
Yeah, I do. I do think it just doesn't make sense that it's not real.
Okay, so let me throw this at you then. You're leaning that it's more believable, even though you're saying it makes no sense that we don't have harder proof or evidence, but yet you lean more to it being a real primitive creature and not interdimensional.
Interdimensional makes no sense to me. For like an alien, that makes sense. They're smart. They're doing something. A ghost, that makes sense. It's kind of barely here anyway. But this is like a big physical thing. It's an animal-like thing. It doesn't have mastery of technology that we know of anyway.
Well, yeah, that we know of. What about Mothman?
That almost feels more alien-like to me. I could see that being interdimensional.
But I think the problem with Bigfoot not feeling alien-like is the fact that the majority of our life, we thought it was like a primate or that it was a cryptid or a creature, which Mothman is a cryptid too. But it's like, I wonder if we need to reframe it. Like, yeah, it has ape-like, human-like qualities. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be something more intelligent or good with technology. I understand 100% where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I have a hard time grappling with it too. But for whatever reason, the interdimensional thing, if I were to believe in Bigfoot, it's really hard to imagine that it's a physical cryptid entity and all we got is blurry footage and that's it. Like I have a hard time believing that. Like as elusive as they are, the fact that we got like nothing, and I know we got like the thermal video and then there's like the gate one. Like I know those things exist, but I feel like the interdimensional aspect allows it to exist, but also to give us a reasoning for why no bones, no bodies, the fact that they're so elusive and quick and they appear out of nowhere.
I really like the idea of like maybe they are cannibals and they are just burying the bones, or they don't care about what happens to the bones and they just end up throwing in the ocean or something.
There's like loved one Bigfoot dying last breath and older Bigfoot or younger Bigfoot's like putting a napkin around. It's like, oh, you're saying it's hard to breathe right now? Are you feeling a little medium rare?
But that makes more sense to me. Like they're really small. There's not a lot of them. They're small family units, and then they eat their dead. That makes more physical, mental sense for me. We're obviously of two minds about this.
But there's also multiple layers of the interdimensional aspect. There's like portals, shooting, like the Rick and Morty thing. Or also just like, what if it just has like cloaking abilities, I don't know. Okay. That's like making up its own stuff. I love that we were getting into encounters that have interdimensional
I do like that last encounter. That was pretty cool.
Creepy story. Basically, the story is this guy is hiking and he's just walking and he finds himself like the trees are different, the air is thicker, there's this weird light, he can't breathe, everything feels weird, and he starts backpedaling and there's this like arm, this like hairy, humanoid-ish arm reaching out at him, and he gets away and he realizes, he looks ahead and he sees this shimmering portal. And I don't know if that story would have been written like 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, maybe this is a me thing. I mean, it very easily could be a me thing. The interdimensional aspect of Bigfoot did not cross my path until the last, 2 years.
And I agree with you. I haven't heard about it. It's hard to, place when I first heard about it, because, like we've talked about before, it's not something that I, deeply cared about. So, I saw a lot of stuff in passing.
Yeah. I think a hard thing with Bigfoot is you look at it, you're, missing link. It's lower on the totem pole. It's not quite a human. It's not quite, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like this creature. It's not as intelligent. It's primal. It goes off instinct. It's like, instinct. It's like, I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna fight you. Mm-hmm. It's hard to then pivot and be like intellectual, interdimensional traveler.
Yeah.
It's a hard pivot.
It's a very hard pivot.
So I'm going to ask you, Charlie, on this episode of Believing the Bizarre, from believable to viable. I'm going to ask you every Bigfoot volume just to see if you shift it all. From believable to viable to skeptical to unbelievable, where do you land on Bigfoot?
Bigfoot in general, I go with viable.
I'm with you. Yeah. I'm not quite believable.
No,
I enjoy the topic because
I've never seen a Bigfoot.
I know Bigfoots.
Bigfoots. I know we don't have to get experience the thing for it to be believable. I want my own anecdotal piece of Bigfoot evidence though, because there's so many.
We got the Ohio Grassman, so it's just a matter of time.
One day.
So that is our episode on Bigfoot. I'm just going to say Bigfoot Volume 1 for now.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what it's going to be.
There's so many encounters with this thing.
I like Bigfoot. It is a little overdone.
Yeah.
It's a little overdone. And I'll be honest, this means nothing. I hate buying stuff that has Bigfoot in that pose.
The pose.
Like for those of you that have seen us on screen or anything,
he's right there.
Right above me is a Bigfoot. Shout out Tess.
He's not in the pose.
We specifically requested he's not in the pose. I love the peeking Bigfoot. He's
It's
cool.
much better.
Creeping around,
I was
peeking
going
at
to tell
you.
my own story. Actually, I do have an anecdotal story about Bigfoot.
Let's hear it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
So I was driving home.
You saved it until everybody skipped and left the episode?
Yeah. So I was driving home from the movie theater one night in Cuyahoga Falls where I live. And I was passing this place and it was a restaurant. And it was Jimmy's Backyard Barbecue.
Okay.
And I saw the Bigfoot.
He got stolen.
There's another one.
They got a new one?
They got a new one. It's much bigger.
He's talking about a statue.
It's not real.
It would wear Cuyahoga Falls outfits and stuff. And somebody it probably was a Bigfoot, interdimensional. Grabbed him.
It was like, is that my wife?
Jerry. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. We knocked off a big topic, so we're good for a year.
Oof,
Charlie will do the Bermuda Triangle in 2025.
There's a big topic coming out right after this, though.
Really?
Yeah, you were there when we recorded it.
Yep, it's not like this.
It's not this big.
It's not like this.
No, it's not this big. No, it's not the same category.
No. I'm talking about the big ones.
The biggest topic.
Like ghosts.
Bermuda Triangle.
Aliens.
I don't know.
Roswell
will be huge.
Yeah, other things that we didn't cover.
Many more.
But we appreciate you listening. I know there's a handful of you out there that like the smaller unknown stories, and so we like doing those too.
Yeah, and if you like this giant story and all the other stories, please feel free to leave a 5-star review on Apple. And if you're on Spotify, you can leave a comment in the episode.
Oh yeah,
and let us know what you're thinking. Tyler, do you have any comments from last episode?
I don't. I'll pull some up.
Oh, okay.
I'll pull some up.
I expected you to say yes.
I know. Normally, well, we just started this trend. Let's see what the folks are saying about listener submission collection. Well, they voted
on the poll.
Yeah, let's see what let's see if I vote, if it'll tell me.
It'll tell you.
Okay, so this is fun. So I put a poll out. I said, which story from this episode do you think is the most believable?
Yeah.
The winner is the ghost car.
I can't believe that. Cannot believe that.
Second place is the cloaked skeleton in hell at 28%.
Yeah.
At 21% is the shadow figure, the lying one.
Yeah. The one that's a lie.
The lying one somehow passed Slenderman at 50%. And I actually don't have a problem with that.
I voted for the skeleton.
Okay, let's see. I Ride Scent Melody said, enjoying the new polls. I remember an old episode, Tyler was worried about running out of things to talk about. And here we are, LOL.
Here we are.
Also, I feel like we need a Tulpa episode. That's on you, Charlie.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be fun to do.
Basil said, great podcast as always. The literal hell story was surprisingly believable. I like Tyler's theory too.
I agree with that, yeah.
Abadono said, love you guys. It's 2 ships in the night, not 2 stars. Haha. Normally meant as easy to miss because ships can easily pass each other in the age of sail without noticing each other. That's why. That's why.
Too.
All right, last one. Mandy said, was doing my physics homework in a quiet public building and started busting out laughing, hearing the guy's first instinct was to throw his printer at Slenderman. 10 out of 10 episode. So we can read your comment and see it and share it with each other and send it to Ben, and he won't respond because he doesn't give us paternal love.
He doesn't.
You can do that on this episode if you're listening on Spotify right now. We will see it. We will respond to it. We will love it. But Charlie, also tell them what they can do if they're all caught up on episodes.
Yeah.
And you're going through withdrawal symptoms.
You're caught up. What else are you going to do?
I don't know what BTB withdrawal symptoms are like.
I can't imagine.
Can't be worse than caffeine.
You just keep saying like and
Oh.
But if you're all caught up and you want to hear more, we've got plenty going back years at this point on Patreon.
Years.
Tyler said 8 to 10 pieces of content.
Well, I don't know about 10, but
Whatever.
8-ish.
Per month.
Ooh.
For years.
Ooh.
Jesus Christ. It's a lot of stuff.
Apparently, I have a son. I don't know.
Yeah, so if you want to catch up on some of that stuff, some of the stuff with us, with producer Ben, and you want to hang out with us, that's where you do it.
So thank you so much for listening to Believing the Bizarre, the podcast that would absolutely drink a Mr. Pibfoot.
Oh, yeah.
As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.